Oh, hello everyone, and welcome back to MrEliMac here on the MrEliMac YouTube channel. You know, this is the show where I go on long monologues and just talk about a topic that I just want to really talk about. And, you know, there's this big topic that I've been wanting to talk about. So, there's been a big question going around the comic book movie sphere ever since it was announced that James Gunn and Peter Safran would be restarting the DC films with their all-new DC universe. And that question is, who's going to be playing the DC Trinity? Well, we all know who's playing Superman now, with David Corenswet playing the role of Superman magnificently in this year's Superman. And that just begs the question of who's playing Wonder Woman and Batman. And while I have an idea on who I would like to play Wonder Woman, I think the big question that everyone's really asking is, who's playing Batman? You see, back when James Gunn first announced the first chapter of the DC Universe, people have been sitting with the idea of Damian Wayne being introduced in the Batman movie The Brave and the Bold. This has led many people to speculate on how old the actor playing Batman would or should be, given the idea of Batman potentially having all four Robins. Having a younger one may not seem plausible. For example, a popular fan casting choice has been Alan Ritchson, a 42-year-old actor, or another very popular fan casting being Jensen Ackles, a 47-year-old actor. However, James Gunn has stated on Threads, replying to a story saying that WB is looking for a middle-aged actor to play Batman, quote, "The casting story is fiction." Now, that was all the way back in October of 2024, and anything can change. But that says to me that they may be hoping to cast someone closer to David Corenswet's age. Also, another popular fan casting choice, Brandon Sklenar, was seen in an Instagram post by the account WWFit to be training for, quote, his biggest role yet. Brandon Sklenar is currently 35 years old, close to David Corenswet's 32 years old. Now, I'm not saying that this is confirmation that Sklenar is playing Batman, but I have found a way to make this make sense. You see, I have always believed that The Brave and the Bold needs to have the Bat family fully in it to fully separate itself from the Batman Part 2. And I also think that it is important to have prior Robins before Damian Wayne's Robin. Mathematically, I can understand it not making sense for a 35-year-old actor to have had 4 Robins and a Batgirl. But this video is all about telling you how it can work. So let's start at the top. When looking at Batman's origins, he typically starts his crime fighting at the age of 25, or at least returns to Gotham at 25 and turns 26 as he becomes Batman. Thus, we have a base age for him in his early years. This next moment may piss die-hard fans off, but in the world of reality, most people find it hard to believe that Batman would let a 12-year-old boy, even with trapeze training, join him in crime fighting. That's why I decided to say during Batman's third year, which is generally considered the year Batman took in Dick Grayson, Bruce took Grayson in at age 15. So in Batman's third year, Batman is 28 and Dick becomes Robin at 15. Also, year 4 of Batman's career is when I would say Barbara becomes Batgirl. I normally think of Barbara being the same age as Dick, so at year 4 we have a 29-year-old Batman, a 16-year-old Robin, and a 16-year-old Batgirl. For the next major life point in Batman's career, we move to year 7. At this point, Dick Grayson has been Robin for 4 years and is now 19 years old. Dick decides it's time for him to move on from the Robin mantle and go out on his own to Bloodhaven as Nightwing. That's when Bruce would come across the 15-year-old Jason Todd, who was trying to steal the tires of the Batmobile. Bruce would see the potential in the kid and take him in to become the second Robin. So now, at age 32, Bruce has had 2 Robins and 1 Batgirl, but tragedy is about to strike. Year 8 would come around where we would see the paralyzation of Barbara Gordon at age 20 and the death of Jason Todd at age 16. Bruce witnessed all of this tragedy at age 33. However, with all the darkness, there is light at the end of the tunnel. year 9 comes around and we see the introduction of Tim Drake. Now, Tim is a special case because he discovers Batman's secret on his own and would see the dark spiral of Batman. This is where I would create the exception to the age rule I introduced with Dick Grayson because of Tim putting himself in this danger. Tim would be 13 years old when he became Robin. However, Bruce would be very adamant about his getting proper training before going out as the Boy Wonder. Tim would get the training he needed and would become Robin. Bruce at this point would be 34. This would also be the year we see Barbara Gordon become Oracle at the age of 21. Here at 34 years old, Bruce would have had 3 Robins, 1 Batgirl, and 1 Oracle. I'm not mentioning Stephanie or Cassandra because I have a movie pitch idea for them and I would want to focus on their ages in that. This would then lead to year 11, where I would imagine the story of The Brave and the Bold would take place. Bruce would be 36 and we would get the introduction of Damian Wayne. This would be the time we would have a child playing Damian because the entire point of Damian is he is a child ninja trained by the League of Assassins. Damian would be 8 years old when he is introduced. The only reason I'm keeping him this age is because of his training and because I believe that the League of Assassins would have him be a child soldier. Also, Tim would have been Robin for 2 years at this point, which may not seem like it's enough to some people, but I think that's enough time for him to have had major moments with the Bat family because a lot can happen in Bat years. So, to wrap up the ages of all of these characters, Bruce is 36 years old, Dick Grayson is 23 years old, Barbara is 23 years old, Jason is 19 years old, Tim is 15 years old, and Damian is 8 years old. Bruce would have had 4 Robins, 1 Batgirl, and 1 Oracle, all before the age of 40. Now, I understand if some of this may seem too underwhelming to some of you. I mean, Tim's only been Robin for 2 years before Damian is introduced, Dick being the longest tenured Robin, clocking in at 4 years, and Jason was only Robin for a year. However, I think when it comes to the timeline of trying to have an entire Bat family, this generally makes sense. It allows Bruce to experience having a family through hope and loss. It also allows for a major story to be told in The Brave and the Bold, and that's really why I've been keeping up with Jason's age. And speaking of, that's going to be my next pitch this video, aka what I would do with The Brave and the Bold. But until then, what have been your thoughts on the timeline of events that I presented to you? Are there any changes you'd make? Also, if you'd like to support me, you can go over to my Patreon account where you can watch this video 2 days early, and at the highest tier, make a pitch request with your specific demands, plus you get priority on the next pitch this video. But until next time, I've been Mr. EliMac, you've been the audience, and I hope you all remember to have a great rest of the day.